welcome to Mr. Otter Studio. Today I'm going to show you how to draw a Tyrannosaurus Rex in pencil and how to paint it in using watercolors. This is a step-by-step tutorial, so even if you've never drawn or never painted before, I'll break this down into simple steps so that you can follow along. This is a requested tutorial, and I'm so glad that I'm finally able to respond to that request and today paint a dinosaur for you. And I hope a T-Rex is all right. So with this T-Rex, we don't have photos of dinosaurs. We have fossils, we have some footprints, and we have some pretty cool movies. So we get to use our imagination a little bit more. We don't know what color they were. We don't exactly know what their skin looked like. Also, for this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to lift off your watercolor paint for some texture. This is a really cool technique you can use. You just have to be careful not to overwork your paper when we use this technique. These are the supplies you need. They are also noted in the comment section below. Watercolor paper, watercolor paints. This is just a really simple 8-color watercolor set. You need a watercolor paintbrush. So I was recently sent some paintbrushes by Princeton, and these are awesome paintbrushes. I've really liked their Elite series. This is a number 8 round. I'm going to use this paintbrush for my whole painting today. Need a pencil and an eraser. I'm also going to be using a pen to outline this, and this is a Micron PN pen, so I use this just for writing every day, but it is archival and waterproof, so I really like to use these in my watercolor paintings as well. You need a container with water, a scratch piece of paper, and some paper towel, or just a rag that you can blot your brush off on. This is really important for the technique that we're using today. It's also important that you use good watercolor paper. We are going to start by drawing this Tyrannosaurus Rex. So grab your pencil. We're going to be drawing the Tyrannosaurus from the side. And we're going to be using a technique where we use simple shapes to block in the main subject, so our dinosaur, so that we make sure we can fit the tail on and fit the head in, and that some of it isn't going off of the paper. So to do that, we're just going to start very lightly. We're not drawing any details in the beginning. It's going to look kind of like a balloon robot dinosaur. So we're going to start with this simple shape, and it's right in the middle of your paper. And it's like an oval shape that's a little bit smaller on the right than it is on the left. So I'm going to make it just a little bit, it's almost like an egg. Also, I'm going to be drawing pretty hard so that you can see what I'm drawing, but make sure you draw really lightly. So light that you almost cannot see your pencil, and it makes it easier to erase later on. Okay, and then we're just gonna draw another big circle right in here at the end, just coming straight up and down. Jump kind of over from this oval, and then come up, because we don't want it right next to this. We don't want it to start it right here, or it's gonna look like an ostrich. You wanna like take a step over, come up, and we're going to draw a triangle that's flat on the top here, but it's rounded. So like a rounded triangle. And again, make sure it comes over a little bit from this oval. Okay, now we're just gonna attach it with some lines. Just kind of curve them. This is the neck, and I'm gonna curve this one down and up as well. Just bring your triangle over this way just a little bit. So we have these curved lines connecting our triangle head, and then we're going to just add a triangle onto the end here. And we will add the rest of the tail on in a minute. Inside of the head, not right back here, but come in just a little bit, and we're going to draw a circle. It's almost going to look like we're drawing two really goofy eyes right here. So we have these two shapes. The eye is actually going to be in here. This is just going to be part of the bones that we can see. Now let's just block in the shape of this back leg. So it kind of starts right here, but this side actually is going to come forward into almost like a knee shape. So once you get past this line, just stop right there, and we're going to draw this next piece that comes into it. So just kind of bring it down. Both of these lines are coming into this shape right here, and you can put a circle in here just to make sure you get that knee in, and then it's going to jet back. And then we're drawing almost like a calf muscle, so you can put another circle in here. That's coming down and going back. And then as soon as we reach this point, we're going to step forward. Now let me zoom out just a little bit so you can see this foot. Think of this almost like a heel of like a ballerina. I don't know why that's how I think of it. A paleontologist is gonna watch this video and be like, wrong. So this one, we're just gonna bring it down straight like this. And then we're going to bring these boxes off to the sides. So we have one box here. And you can make these a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. And then we're gonna bring the next box out more. So we just have these two boxes. Then we're going to add this other leg that's going to be coming out from behind this one. We can see part of it right here, and then we're just gonna bring this shape. Let's see, the calf would be, so we're almost drawing like an oval shape in here for the calf, and then this leg is coming back a little bit. Draw a circle for that heel shape, and then it's going to come down and forward. It's almost like we can see this toe, but it's facing us. And this is coming forward too, just a little bit. So we want to make these kind of square right here, and then they're going to come back up and in, and then drop this down and back over and in. So these ones are just barely curving at the bottom. These ones are like coming down and these ones are going forward, but there is a slight bend. So to put the claws on, so you're going to draw like just a little slide and then bring it back in. So a little slide down and then back in. So just think of a slide down to the ground and then bring it back up and in. You can make these sharper, a little bit more menacing if you would like. You can also make these feet a little bit bigger if you want to. And then this one's facing us. So we're just gonna draw a circle. And then off of that circle, I'm just gonna draw like a little triangle coming forward right there. So those are the legs. And you know what, while we're zoomed in here, let's go ahead and work on these tiny little T-Rex arms. Since this is the part of a T-Rex that is so iconic, is their tiny little arms with their humongous bodies. Just draw kind of a circle right here. This is where the arm's going to be coming out of. We're gonna draw a V that comes in and down. So this is the front part of the arm and this is the back. So we're gonna draw it up like this. We're gonna give them just a little bit of a muscle. So we're making it a little bit thicker in there. Then you're gonna draw like a little sausage coming forward or a shape like that. And then another one up here that's smaller. So it almost looks like a little mitten. But don't worry, you can add those claws on there. So the swoop and then back, and that will make it look a little bit more scary, like a dinosaur, or a little bit more menacing. So then this one you bring down. You can put these arms however you want, and you can make them longer, shorter. You can totally change how they're opening. I mean, really, I'm just kind of making this up, right? This isn't a real creature that I'm looking at. And then do the same thing. So we have these two, and it's just like these little mittens that I've drawn. And you can draw, this one looks a little bit closer probably than the other one. So maybe I'm gonna make this one just a little bit longer, just so they look similar. And while you can see this, let's just go ahead and draw in the shape of the back is gonna come in and then just come up and over. All right, so I've zoomed in. This looks kind of like a googly-eyed dinosaur. Now let's make it look like a real dinosaur. So what we're gonna do, and I'm gonna erase this line just so you can't see, just so you can tell, and I'm gonna erase the bottom line of these circles so it doesn't confuse you. So we still have the top shape of these two circles. Feel free to erase them if you would like. So your eye is going to come below this line of the triangle, but it should kind of match the shape a little bit. So go ahead and put a circle in for the eye, and then let's go ahead and make this look like this cool bone that's surrounding it. So we're just gonna come up, and then this line's just gonna come down a little bit onto the face. And then we're gonna draw the nose in, and I feel like it needs to come out just a little bit. It's not like a straight line over like this. It actually kind of dips down for their top lip. So you see I'm kind of dipping down, and I feel like maybe this should be a little bit bigger. So it's gonna dip down, and then once it gets to here, it's just kind of squeezing in right here on the nose a little bit. But when it gets below the eye, it's dipping down like that and coming back. So it's almost mirroring this circle shape. And actually it's gonna come all the way back down the neck, but we'll work on that in a second. And then the bottom of it, we're gonna start just right below the eye and bring the bottom part of the jaw out. You don't have to have its mouth open. It's totally up to you. But this shape is echoing that shape. So right where this shape comes up, this shape's gonna come up, because you think about it, this has to close together, right? So this shape should fit into that shape, if that makes sense. And now we have the bottom part of the mouth. We're just gonna bring it down and over. And bring it down just a little bit for the bottom part of this jaw and then round it off. Also, if you're making this more of an illustrative Tyrannosaurus Rex, you can totally change the face, change how it looks, everything. I'm gonna erase some of these lines so that you can see how I'm gonna draw these teeth in. One thing I love about the T-Rex are how the teeth are not the biggest right in the front, but they're kind of bigger on the side. So I'm just gonna put this little line right here. In a lot of drawings I've seen, there's a little piece of skin that's attaching these jaws together right there, almost like a snake. Let's draw the nose. So the nostril is just right up at the top, this little upside down teardrop shape. And then for the teeth, let's just draw some massive teeth right here on the side and then some smaller ones on the front. And they're gonna get just a little bit smaller as they go back. Same thing with the bottom. Let's draw some bigger teeth right here and then some smaller ones on the front. Make them as big, as sharp, as scary, whatever as you want. This is your drawing. I'm just giving you like some ideas for it. So this shape that's going above the eye really quick, I just wanna show you, it's thick. So I'm just gonna draw almost like a line parallel to it that's coming up and over. This is that cool bone that kind of makes him look mad. You can bring it closer to the eye if you want him to look madder, or up a little bit higher. Also, how you draw in the center of the eye, you can do the round that's more like cartoon eye looking, or you can do that reptilian eye, kind of like a snake eye, the long shape, which is pretty cool. I'm just going to use a little dot in mine. That's why I love drawing like this. It's not wrong, right? Because no one really knows. You can do it however you want. Now let's see, this comes down just a little bit on the neck. So we have the eye in. We'll put in some more wrinkles later. I'm just gonna put one line behind it. And then if you want it to look kind of scarier in there, you can add these triangles, one to the top corner, one to the bottom corner of the eye. All right, so the tail you can draw however you want. I'm just gonna draw mine curving down, but you could draw it straight out, you could draw it curving up, you could draw it curving down, whatever. The only thing I've heard is that they didn't touch the ground, but you could make it touch the ground if you want. This is your drawing, so do whatever you want with it. So to make it curve, I like to start on the inside. So just come down here, just draw a nice little curved shape inside. And it can even like kind of point down if you want it to, and then make it skinnier towards the end, and it's gonna get a little bit bigger as it gets towards the triangle, and just, it will connect at the top. So you're drawing almost like a C at the bottom, and then making it a little thicker, and it gets bigger as it comes towards the dinosaur and towards the tail. Okay, this is my favorite part. So if you're just using pencil, go ahead and erase those lines you're not using, like this one, this one. If you're using a pen for this tutorial, this is the point where you just outline and keep the lines that you want. So this is my favorite part because you can correct things, you can add some wrinkles while you're doing this. If you're keeping it in pencil, erase those lines we used to draw it with. And if you're using pen, go ahead and outline it in pen and erase the pencil out. At this point, I really like to put some wrinkles in with my pen. You could do this with your pencil if you're using one. It just adds a little bit of texture. I just like to add like some wrinkles in here. Just some simple lines that show that the skin is kind of folding. All right, so now we have it drawn. We've erased out our pencil. I've added just a few wrinkles, a little line under the eye. Add any little details like that. And now let's get ready to paint. If you are left-handed, go ahead and set up on the left side. If you're right-handed, set up on the right side. I am right-handed, so I am definitely going to be setting up on the right side. For the dinosaur, you can use whatever colors you want. You could use 2 colors, you can use 1 color. I like to paint with 2 colors. In order to do that, I want to have both colors mixed up before I start to paint, so that as I'm painting, I don't have to stop and remix my colors. So if you've never painted with me before, I always make a puddle in my tray if I'm painting in a large area so I don't run out of paint. So I'm going to be painting my dinosaur green. If you want it to be really bright and saturated, you can just use the green right from your paint set. You can also make green using 2 colors, yellow and blue. I honestly like the green that blue and yellow make more than the one that comes in my set because it just looks really manufactured and not natural. So what I like to do is just add a little bit of brown to it. You can also add a little bit of red to it, and it just mutes it just a little bit. It makes it not so bright. Also, since we're going to be lifting off the paint, make sure you paint dark enough that you can actually lift off. If you're painting really light, you're not going to be able to see what we're lifting off. It's not going to get any lighter, if that makes sense. So just keep dropping your color in there. Make sure you have enough to cover your Tyrannosaurus Rex. I'm going to paint it with this color, and then I'm going to drop a little bit of a lighter color onto it, like a lime green color. This is with adding a little bit more color and a little bit more brown. This is getting closer to what I want. Then I'm going to make another puddle with green, still a little brown, and yellow. So it's just going to be a little bit lighter. And I'm going to use that on the belly, just in some other areas, maybe even under the tail. So see, I just added a little bit of brown to it, and that's just muting it a little bit so it's not so bright. So that's the other color that I have. I like that color. So there's a few ways to paint with 2 colors. Really quickly, you can paint with the one and then just glaze the other one over it on the bottom, and they'll kind of overlap each other, and that's totally fine. Or you can keep the paint wet and gradate it in there, or you can just put it right over the top. So for this one, I'm just going to paint my top color and keep it pretty dark, and then paint the lighter color underneath and just let them blend together. So I'm going to let this paint's going to be pretty thick. It's going to pool up a lot on my painting because I want it to blend with the lighter color. So load up your brush with paint, make sure there's plenty of paint on there, and go ahead and start painting in your T-Rex. So I'm gonna start on the tail, and do you see how much paint I'm using? It's like I'm painting a huge puddle on here. And that's so that when I get my other color on here, it's gonna blend really, really well. So I'm just painting in this top area first, trying to figure out where I want it on these legs. I might not have any yellow, so I can paint them in pretty quickly. The only thing you don't want to paint over are the eyes and the lighter areas. And anywhere I want it to blend, I just want to keep it nice and juicy and wet. So I want this to blend right here, so I'm just keeping this puddle right along the edge. But in some of these areas where it's not going to be blending, I'm just going to take some of the paint off of my brush with my paper towel. And I want to keep this eye really bright. So I'm not going to paint over that. Also, you don't want to paint over the teeth. Now I'm going to grab my I'm going to rinse my brush off, grab my second color, make sure I have a lot of it on my paintbrush, and then I'm just going to paint next to that first color. And down here it kind of started to dry a little bit, so I'm kind of working it in just a little bit. You don't want to scrub your paper, but sometimes you need to reactivate your paint, like just along these edges. And luckily it's still wet, so it's blending really nicely. Quick note, if you paint the arms in first, paint the arms in first if you want them to be the darker green color. Once this area is dry, you can paint in the eye and the area around the mouth, but I'll zoom in just so you can see what those washes look like. While I'm waiting, these colors are pretty dry with these little claws. So what I'm going to do is just mix up, get my brown, come down here, and I'm going to add some green to it. I'm just going to paint these like a really, really dark green-brown color, and you can do whatever color you want. But I want to show you how to make them look shiny really quick. To make it look shiny, you're just going to leave a tiny bit of white inside of it. These ones are so small, I don't know if I can really do it, but maybe on this one. So I'm just bringing the color barely on top. See how I just left this tiny little triangle that's white? That's just to give it a little bit of shine. I'm going to do the same thing with these bottom ones. Okay, and notice I've been using this a lot to control how much paint is on my brush. So when I'm painting in a large area, it doesn't matter as much, but when I'm painting in small areas like these claws, I'm just going to blot it off on my brush so that it's not a huge puddle when I start to paint. So it looks like the area around my eye is dry. You can paint the eye whatever color you want. Sorry, it's going to be a little bit sideways as I paint it. I'm going to use yellow. It just feels right. I'm just dipping right in my yellow paint. This area in the mouth, you can make it pink if you want to. You could make it green. It really is not, it's up to you. There's not really a right or wrong way to do that part. If you want to make it pink, just grab a little bit of your red, put it in your tray with a lot of water. I'm going to add a little bit of green to it just so it kind of ties in a little bit. And I'm just going to paint in this little triangle of skin. You can leave the teeth white, or you can take either some of your green or I'm just going to add a little bit more brown to the green. I mean, teeth aren't brown, but for some reason I feel like the T-Rex might have had a little bit of some bad teeth. I don't know. So I just added a little brown to my green puddle so it looks like this. I'm just going to add this shadow. So I'm just going to add a little bit of the brown on the top of these teeth. You could even paint your teeth and some of them brown. Once all of the green is dry, we are ready to do the lift-off technique. And this is a really cool technique for watercolors. So you need your water and you need a paper towel. So we want to make sure our brush is clean. And this is called lifting off the paint. So the reason I want to show you on the tail is just because it's an easier area. So I'm just going to start lifting it off. You can lift it off in spots, stripes. This is basically just going to give us a little bit of texture in here. And remember when you're doing this to think about the shape of the body. So is it curving or is it straight? Because if you make these lines too straight, it's going to make the whole body look like it's straight. All I'm doing is taking the very tip of my paintbrush, making sure it's clean, it is a little wet, and just lifting off some of that paint. Making sure I'm not overworking my paper and tearing through it. So you can do lines again, you can do circles, you know, do them wherever you want. I kind of tend to do them along the back, along the front of the legs, the top of the head. So let me show you some of the areas on the head that I think it's kind of fun to do this with. I really love the texture in this big, I'm just going to call it the eyebrow. I know that's not what it is. So do you see how I'm just kind of painting a tiny little circle on there? You can make them closer together if you want. So with your paintbrush, add this texture anywhere you see it, anywhere you want it to be, basically. So just look at it and add those highlights, add that texture anywhere you want it to be. You can use dots, you can use lines. There's no right or wrong way to do this, but I love adding texture with this technique. Just make sure you keep rinsing your brush off and blotting it off on the paper towel. If you need to reshape your paintbrush, just use your paper towel to kind of twist it into a point again. Okay, so I'm going to stop there, but you can definitely add more texture to it anywhere you want and as much as you want. So just look over it and see if there's any other areas where you want to add a little bit of texture or some shadows or some lines. The last thing we're going to do is add a shadow underneath. The shadow color, and you don't have to add a shadow. You can paint a background if you want. It's totally up to you how you want to finish this. But if you want to paint a shadow, you could just add a little red to your green and it kind of makes this nice neutral color. If it's a little bit too, you can add a little bit of blue to it to make it less warm. If it looks a little bit too red, you can even just use the green. So I have kind of this brown color, and then you can just paint in a shadow along the bottom. So there would be a shadow probably behind this foot and in front of it, and then behind this one. And that is it. You are finished. I hope you enjoyed painting this Tyrannosaurus Rex with me. I hope you can use this lifting off technique in some of your other watercolor paintings, and also the technique where we use the shapes to draw this Tyrannosaurus Rex. I would love to see your dinosaur paintings and drawings. Please post them to Instagram using hashtag Mr Otter Studio or Mr Otter Art Studio. Thank you so much for requesting this. I really, really liked painting this dinosaur. And have a wonderful day.
Yesterday.